Okay. Bruce and Adam, stop your lively conversation. At one level, I don't even know how to conclude after that last panel. But at one level, it's been doing what this conference was designed to do, as all the other panels have been, which is to bring to life something of the multi-dimensional, even literally the sheet being multi-dimensional, nature of the Broadside Ballad, as song, as art, as dance, as forensic object, as digital object, as culture, as it would have been experienced in its own time, but also as we're experiencing it now, as our last panel really underscored. As part of that varietal experience, individuals and communities then and now coalesce and separate over ideas or beliefs about the ballads as evidenced in this conference. There's a kind of concord in discord, what the Renaissance referred to as a harmony of concordia discourse, in not only the many media, the many physical senses, but also the many tools, the many different perspectives the Broadside Ballad generates. Printers and publishers were in the market of generating controversy, dialogues and ballads that countered other ballads, often written by the same author and printed by the same printer-publisher. But they were also trying to reach out to as many buyers as possible by doing so. As today, controversy sells. Ironically, it brings people together. Even tunes were controversial and used to diverse ends. And so I'm going to end with a little bit of an argument about a tune that I hope will make a point. So in 1660, on April 23rd, Lord Edward Montagu commanded the Naseby, with his secretary Samuel Pepys on board, to head to Holland to pick up Charles Stuart and bring him back to be crowned King Charles II of England. In an evening of extraordinary good sport aboard the ship, Pepys reports, Montagu, quote, fell to singing of a song made upon the rump, with which he pleased himself well, to the tune of The Blacksmith, a tune we've been hearing about. This ballad singing by Montagu, while seemingly an inconsequential part of the general shipboard sport, marks a moment of high reflexive performativity on Montagu's part, which Pepys and others most likely joined in, given the participatory nature of ballad singing. The ballad sung would certainly have been anti-rump. The Presbyterian rump was first created in 1648 when Colonel Pride, acting for the New Model Army, purged the Long Parliament of all members who resisted deposing Charles I. In the course of the consequent or subsequent Commonwealth period, the rump became internally divided, increasingly ineffectual, and much vilified. Royalists and then more general attacks on the rump invoke crude comparisons to buttocks, productive only of smelly farts and turds. Joining in the expression of the now overwhelming contempt for the Republican Parliament through song would have been deeply meaningful, especially for Pepys and Montagu, since both had been active supporters of Cromwell's Commonwealth. The anti-rump song belies that alliance, replacing it with a spontaneous open voicing of cross-class, male-gendered, and political solidarity with both the people and the monarchy. Particularly of significance in this case of social political bondings is Pepys's naming of the tune to the anti-rump ballad that Montagu sings, The Blacksmith. Tunes slipped from ballad to ballad subject, along the way changing their names as we've seen, and sometimes, like men of the time, their loyalties. The melody of The Blacksmith was in fact originally titled, as we know now, Greensleeves. The original ballad by that name is a familiar story of spurned love akin to Barbara Allen, but with the suggestion that the male lover is courtly, and his lady had returned his affection before casting him off. The tune is extant, as is a very early version of the Broadside Ballad text, printed in 1584 by Richard Jones in A Handful of Pleasant Delights. It would appear from the lyrics to this ballad, especially in stanza 3, that the lady is in fact a kept woman, and that her would-be love has the considerable means to woo her in rich, courtly fashion. And I've asked Carolyn to please come up and sing this one stanza for us so we can hear it. This is the full Greensleeves tune, and also make my point for me.
Okay. Is this working? Oh, yeah. Okay. I bought thee carriages to thy head that were wrought fine and gallantly. I kept thee both at board and bed, which cost my purse well favoredly. Green sleeves was all my joy, green sleeves was my delight. Green sleeves was my heart of gold, and who but Lady Greensleeve?
Thank you. By the early 17th century, the implication that the green-sleeved lady was a kept woman turned the term greensleeves into a common metaphor for a handsomely dressed woman who was usually a courtesan. But Greensleeves is most slippery in its allegiances. From the outset, it was two-faced, first registered twice on the very same day, September 3rd, 1580, by two different printers under two different namings. One, A New Northern Ditty of the Lady Greensleeves by Richard Jones, and two, an answer to the ballad, titled Ye Lady Greensleeves Answer to Donkin His Friend by Edward White. And so began a dizzying gold rush grab for title and tune. Jones, for instance, quickly re-registered the ballad in the same year under a new title. This could well be the version implying a kept lady, which Jones later printed in 1584, for it provoked indignation by the well-known ballad author, of whom we've heard a lot, William Elderton, who responded quickly by registering a, quote, reprehension against Greensleeves, unquote. Other of these early ballads turn the theme of the tune to the theme of sexual betrayal, into treachery or treason. But that did not stop the godly from getting in on the popular action, and within 12 days of the first entry of Love Ballads appears a license for Greensleeves moralized to Scripture. Other godly ballads followed, and by the 1640s, the tune became associated with Christmas carols, an association still strong today. But Greensleeves also somehow slipped into ballads about tradesmen. James Smith's Celebration of Blacksmiths, and we've seen this repeatedly too, printed in 1656, led the way, a later version of which was collected by Pepys and also by Roxburgh and added to their collections. This ballad provides the name for the Greensleeves melody cited by Pepys in describing Montague's anti-rump song to the tune of The Blacksmith, and here's a close-up of it. In a nutshell, to quote Claude Simpson, Greensleeves appealed to a wide variety of publics. But what explains such a wide appeal? And what, if anything, explains the tune's particular turn to politics and royalist publics and political publics at that, especially since it begins as a love song? Part of the turn to politics aligned with the court has to do with the nature of the original love song, or at least Jones's 1584 apparent reworking of it under the title, and this is in his book, he calls it A New Courtly Sonnet of the Lady Greensleeves, even though in fact it's a ballad. Indeed, the lady's would-be lover has a considerable means to woo her in rich courtly fashion. Though the associations are not all flattering, it's in the nature of ballads' slippages to become messy, one can see how the highly fashionable status of lady and wooer might cause cavaliers to see it as a fitting high melody for their royalist cause. The slippage to songs about treason, given the beheading of Charles I, further fit that cause, as does the truly odd slippage to ballads about tradesmen that follow upon the blacksmith. The latter gave momentum to turning the Greensleeves tune to political parody, since Cromwell was from a family of brewers. Thus we find a host of late Commonwealth ballads attacking Richard Cromwell, Oliver's son and inept successor, with such titles as The Brewer, or The Praise of Brewers, and The Protecting Brewer. At the level of melodic structure, there's another reason for the song's immense popularity, as well as its easy turn to the political. The song, put most simply, is very singable. One phrase leads into the next in an easy, flowing way. There are no abrupt or unexpected shifts from one note to another, and there's a nice balance in the melody between repetition and novelty. In the second string, for instance, even though it at first feels novel, because of the two repeated high notes at the beginning, we hear repetition of notes that carries over from the first string. But what leads the melody of Greensleeves, what lends it so well to trade songs and political songs in particular, and finally into a host of operas, is the shortened version by which it can be sung. In this version, the second string, that light and uplifting moment that's so extended in the second string, so suitable for expressing the passion of love or of spirituality, is reduced, and the singer can more adeptly hammer home a political or satirical theme or a short ditty for the stage. The four-line stanzas of The Blacksmith, as you can see here, can be sung to this shortened version, as can be most of the political ballads to Greensleeves. The anti-rump ballads, indeed, typically rename their melody The Blacksmith, or, as the refrain here says, which nobody can deny.